Hey guys, new video here. It's been a while, but there's some really exciting stuff being confirmed on the PoE subreddit and in certain podcasts. And what's going on is, there was like some leaks, and we saw some anointments which seem pretty powerful, and then they've kind of been confirmed so far, and I just want to talk about them because it is a huge headhunter buff, like absolutely massive, and also it just makes your characters that much stronger. It gives freedom of like specking a little bit out of damage and going into other cool things that might make your character more fun or faster, or just it just lets you like not have to focus at all on damage in any way. And let's just go over that. So the first thing right here, and this is called Tranquility. I'm guessing this is an anointment, and basically what it is it is base 5% increase to max ES. Not that great because you can get like 8%, 6% nodes, but it's something there. The big one is this like red text right here. So increases and reductions to maximum energy shield also apply to spell damage at 50% value. So what that means, if you're in your PoE and you look at the increased energy shield stat, and let's say you're like some let's say you're some low life or some regular ES spellcaster, okay? Let's say even you're playing Essence Drain, or you're playing like a Storm Call, or you're playing EK, or your Blade Vortex, what have you. It doesn't really matter, right? As long as it is an actual spell, you will take your ES number in PoB. Let's say it's 200. That seems like a fair amount these days, and then you will basically take half of that and then think of that as spell damage. So 200% ES in your PoB becomes 100% of extra spell damage, right? Now 100% spell damage is like, it's pretty good, nothing too crazy, right? Because like a rampage at 1,000 monster kills gives you 100% increased damage and a 20% move speed. But what really gets crazy with this is that you have to think about it in two ways. First, what it allows when you stack buffs, and what types of builds benefit that couldn't benefit before. So I'm going to show you guys something right here as well before I move into the big part of it. And this is kind of the life-based version that was revealed on the PoE subreddit a while ago. And 5% increased life, pretty good actually, because once you've taken like your 6% nodes, then you're pretty much left with like your 5% nodes, right? At best. So that's like one extra life node instantly. And then increases and reductions to maximum life also apply to attack damage at 30% their value. So not quite as good as the 50% their value, but still pretty darn good, because if you calculate the numbers, and let's say you're like, I don't know, close to 200% increased life, and then you calculate in PoB for some hitting attack, and you think about it in a way where you're like, okay, so let's say I get like 10, 15, maybe 20% sometimes in whatever rare cases more damage, then you need to take your average DPS in PoB and think, what one notable on PoB can I take that might give me 10, 15, 20% more damage, right? And there are some nodes on the trees like that, right? The notables that are at the end of a chain. For example, you need to take like 2 smaller nodes to get there, 3 smaller nodes sometimes, what have you, right? So those are the comparisons you're making, right? So by looking at these numbers, you can kind of tell, like, okay, it makes sense, right? My EHP, my defensive, is now also my offensive. Everyone understands that. Now here's where it gets really, really crazy. So if you look at this is a list of nemesis, or sorry, not nemesis, this is rare monster modifiers. Monsters can have an aura, they can have up to three affixes, right? And so these are prefixes, these are suffixes down here. I've done other videos kind of going over this stuff, but the main thing we're gonna look at is prefixes. And what are the very common prefixes that you steal with Inspire Learning and Headhunter, okay? And they are, obviously you get capped accuracy. They're all actually pretty common, right? Like I don't think that they're weighted really like in any crazy way. Like splitting is a good one, because if you're like a tornado shot or any projectile build, skills, right? Any skills fire 2 additional projectiles, right? And you're gonna stack this up. I'll kind of give it to you like this way, right? Somewhere between 30 and 40 tornado shot arrows will make your tornado shot, instead of like this little cone, it will make it an entire circle around your character when you shoot it once. And so That's essentially, like 10, right? Like 10, maybe like 15. I'd say like maybe 15 splitting steals, right? Very common. Another one is move speed. You'll notice you move very fast. You will notice that all your skills that have any kind of base crit have 100% crit chance and like, 2000% multi sometimes. And those damage ones are okay. But in this scenario, based on the two anointments I talked about, let's look at this. So looking at the life one right here again, right? 30% of your maximum life, right, the percentage increases, will now apply to this, right? And this is pretty crazy because there's not only this, but there's also this one, right? There's 100% increased maximum energy. It's called shimmering. And so in my experience, I would say for a spellcaster, if we're going to take half of the value of spell damage, I'd say for a Beyond map, if you're juicing, if you have like maybe a couple of inspired learnings, you are looking at probably at a very conservative estimate, by the way, you're looking at like 1,000% increased spell damage. Okay, that's really crazy. Now obviously the life total here is a quarter of that. Okay, so let's say you're at 250, right? But if you're double beyonding and doing all kinds of crazy stuff like juicing with even more inspires, if you have Headhunter and stuff like that, you're looking at some pretty crazy numbers. And so obviously the flat values of ES is better, and then the life is okay, right? And I'd say like life is kind of more of a meta overall for the majority of players these days. So you're probably gonna like be looking at this one, right? But wait, it gets even crazier because you're gonna have massive amounts of damage added to your character for free, right? And now look at this. Oh my goodness, look at this thing right here. So you have a Crown of Eyes, and what Crown of Eyes does is it takes increases and reductions of spell damage also apply to attacks. So let's say you're in an attack build, right? And the amulet is not the only place you can get anointment. You can get an anointment on the new boots, on the new chest, on the new helmet, on the new gloves if you choose to use those. And for most characters, you can give up a glove, a chest, a helmet, especially if you're using the gold before. You might even go faster if you're bad at clicking shrines. You could easily drop one of these slots to pick up an extra anointment slot. And what that means is if you can get this tenacity node and you can get this increased ES node, right? Then what does that mean? That means that not only are you going to get like at minimum like 250% increased attack speed from this, right? But most likely like 500 plus increased damage to your attacks. But you're also going to get your 1,000 to 2,000% increased spell damage, right? Stealing from here, right? Because the shimmering mod is massive. So that one, let's say you get 1,000% increased max ES, right? That is now attack damage flat, like not scaled off tenacity at all either. So it's just so crazy for attack builds. If you get those two mods stolen, you're gonna hit damage cap so fast it's not gonna even be funny, right? Because I was hitting damage cap on like a 5-link EK, sometimes 4-link EK if I swapped out into a faster proj. A 2-link GC was hitting damage cap, right, like 2 billion damage, and these things are just ridiculous. So let's just say you're not juicing like that hard, okay? And even you can see how even if you downskill us down from damage cap, your character's looking pretty darn good. And what does that mean? That means if you have a 5-link, no problem. If you have a 6-link and you want to swap out your damage gems, right? So you know how a lot of gems these days give like 30-40% more damage. You swap it out for some ink AoE. You swap it out for something cool, like some like edgy, cool support gem that might come out, right? That makes your build more fun. Like something that comes to mind is like faster proj, right? Sometimes you don't want to put in faster proj for something because you're like, why? Like, why would I do that? Because it's not a more multiplier, it's an increased modifier. But now you can swap in like these cool and edgy gems that you couldn't before because your damage is already taken care of by this one mechanic, okay? And keep in mind, you can have 4 anointments, so that means like if you choose to use everything, you can not only get this, but you can get the more flavorful ones that people are also excited about. For example, Whispers of Doom, Overcharged, etc. Whatever you want on the tree. And this is not counting that the points might save you up to 4 points or more, so you basically gonna have like a level 120 character essentially. So this is like so ridiculous, this next league for power creep. It's so exciting, and it really lets you kind of play around the tree and do things that you couldn't do before because you were always thinking about how can I feel good at the beginning of a map. Another thing that I want to talk about, So every league I talk about how there's always someone who's a little bit uninformed, and they say you put Headhunter on any build, you put Headhunter on a heavy strike build, put Headhunter on a dot build, and it's going to look exactly the same as a Headhunter tornado shot build. That is not true. Anyone who's played with it knows it's not true. Everyone knows that without Beyond it's trash. Everyone knows that without Sextants, without the without the full juicing setup, it's pretty lackluster, right? Now, what is a skill type that does not benefit from Headhunter very well? Well, that would be dot builds, okay? So Righteous Fire is an exception because Righteous Fire is scaled base damage off the ES you have, so the Headhunter is very good for it because you will have, 20, 30, 50, 100 times more damage than you had before, okay? But if we're talking about ED Contagion, we're talking about Bane, we're talking about Soul Rend, we're talking about any of these Chow's dot skills, look at these modifiers, okay? They can't crit, they don't benefit from accuracy or global crit chance, they don't benefit from actually increasing your life, right? Besides being more tanky, but it's not real damage like Righteous Fire is. They don't benefit from anything but this. Look at this, increased damage. This is global damage, right? So it does benefit from increased damage. Doesn't benefit from splitting for the two projectiles. Doesn't benefit really from cast speed because you can't stack multiple Essence Drains or Banes on the same character, or Soul Rends for that matter. If you look at the suffixes, now you have physical as extra, which is a more pure multiplier, which is amazing, but that doesn't affect Chow's dot skills. Frenzies, I guess, sure, maybe, but you're gonna have ways of generating frenzy anyways, and so it's gonna be, you can't crit, so power charge doesn't help that much, besides that one node that's like 4% increased spell damage per power charge. So you don't get anything for Chow's dot builds, but now you get this, but you don't care about this because it's 25% increased damage. Garbage. But now for Chow's dot builds, you have this. And if you get 1,000 and 2,000% increased damage with the buff, a tiny buff to the multiplier for damage over time, and you get like your 4% multi jewels, and you have like your male violence Watcher's Eye, like you're gonna get 3, 4, 5 times more damage than you had before. And that is very exciting because before you couldn't scale, you couldn't steal, you couldn't use Inspire Learnings with these dot builds because it just was not worth it and it was so terrible. But now it is something massive, and not to the level of where you're hitting damage cap, but easy million plus DPS on all your dot skills, like without even trying. That's all I wanted to say. I think it's pretty exciting. There's a lot of other applications. I'm sure people, as the league rolls out, as more reveals and more glowy brain strategies are put together, you can see how crazy this could possibly get. So that's all I want to say. And I hope you guys enjoy the video. And if you guys have any questions, I'm live every day on twitch.tv/QTalk. You guys can ask me questions there. Okay, I love you guys. Okay, bye. Thank you for watching the video. Okay, bye everyone. Thank you guys.